So Dennis, you're based in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I'm based in Hong Kong, but actually I have a lot of operations going on in China, so I'm spending like 70% of my time here right now.
Great. So XERAFY is a company that's addressing this really very fascinating and interesting growing space, but kind of nebulous, the whole Internet of Things. And before we dig into that, why don't we learn a little bit more about your path to XERAFY and how you've started the company?
Well, I'm not a serial entrepreneur, but I've been doing a lot of startup for companies before. So I've been with Schlumberger and Motorola when I helped to set up business units for them. And the last company I was with, Inside Contactless, I helped to head up their Asia operations, which they went IPO this year. So after a while, I thought to myself, well, 20 years, I better start doing something for myself and not, continue to work for big companies and help them be successful. So that's how we actually came up to set up this company, XERAFY. And one of the things we wanted to do was to take the experience that I was in this industry for 20 years. It's an evolving technology. It's automatic data capture, RFID. But more importantly is that this whole technology has evolved in the last 20 years. I mean, from basically using for access control, for transport, into payments, into NFC, and now it's actually used in defense and aerospace, oil and gas. So we'll take this into these kind of industries which we think is a underserved market. At the same time, building technologies that we think could be borderless and then take it across the world. And what is really interesting is that we actually started this company focusing more on the US and Europe markets, becoming successful there, and then now bringing back into Asia.
Interesting. So kind of a serial intrapreneur, as we were discussing before, and now you said, I'm sick of helping other companies go public. I'm going to try to do it myself. So, yeah. So tell me about this, the specific vision, maybe some examples of what XERAFY is doing, and then how that fits into this whole Internet of Things matrix.
Well, in China, there's this, they focus on Wulianwang, and that's the Internet of Things. And I think basically it's ubiquitous. Everything is interconnected. And the way to be interconnected is that you need to have automatic data capture. And one of the things that is already very present since the 70s is barcoding. But barcoding has evolved, and now it's not actually an accurate or a very fast way to capture information. So one of the things we try to do now is, as the technology evolves, we try now to make it into a technology that can be used in the industry, such as aerospace. For example, most of the aerospace companies, oil and gas companies, are now using our technology, not only to capture data, but also for compliance issues, for safety. And these are the things that we try to serve the market more, because it's not enough to just capture data. It's more important is how to use this data efficiently and be able not only to increase efficiency and productivity, but also to be able to use this data to make sure that certain processes are being done. For example, if a tool needs to be maintained, it's properly maintained. If something is not left in the right place at the right time, you shouldn't leave it there because it might cause a accident it could result actually in a nuclear accident, or actually result in what you call a foreign object. For example, if you do a surgery and a surgeon leaves a tool behind in your body, that's actually called a foreign object. Or if somebody repairs an aircraft and leaves something behind in the fuselage, and the plane goes airborne, that's actually a foreign object and actually can cause a disaster. And actually, one of the interesting things that we saw is that after 2 years ago, there's this Gulf of Mexico oil spill, and actually the end result coming out from that inquiry is that they have actually to employ RFID as a better way to have traceability of the assets. And the second thing is to make sure that proper maintenance has been done at the right time. And if not, then the companies will be fined.
Interesting. Yeah, I think unless the doctor actually drops a watch into your stomach after a surgery and you can hear it ticking, it's probably kind of tough to find a scalpel. So I hear about this Internet of Things, like for instance, you have a RFID chip on your milk carton, and then it somehow talks to the fridge and says, okay, I'm expiring, or it's time to get new milk. What's this sort of, how does the interface work? So there's a like what it's
Well, actually I did not elaborate on that earlier. Actually, first and foremost, you need to have that data capture, and then you need to have a device, what I call a reader, to be able to read this information. And this reader, as Ecuador was from Facebook was saying just now, is that could be now in the form of a mobile reader. So, for example, if you go to a shop and you want to make sure that something that you buy is expensive is not fake, you can use your mobile reader to check it and actually have this information verified. Or, for example, 每个学生证, there's a 标签. So when you go into a railway station, you buy some kind of railway ticket, you get a discount. And there's a way for them to check this information. And all this information that's captured can go on, you can actually use this data, legitimately, of course, to see how you want to actually make the whole process more efficient. So that's where the software and the middleware comes in. And these are the people who take this capture of data to be able to process information. So eventually it could be used for food safety, it can be used for environmental control, it can be used for, for example, in transportation, not only to check whether someone has paid, whether they go on top of a bus or metro, they can check when is the peak hours, what's the traffic light, how they can reduce traffic flow, how they can prevent certain accidents from happening, things like that.
What about the security issues around these RFID chips?
Well, security is built in, so it can be built in the readers, it can be built in on the card. It really depends on the way you implement it. If you want to put it onto the card, normally it takes a bit longer time, and the higher the security, the longer the authentication. So in the form of a bank card, for example, if you have, say, an American Express with a silicon chip on it, then you might take a few more minutes or seconds to authenticate it. But normally, nowadays, people do not use very high security for small payments. So it's becoming more like you have some cash in your wallet, say $20 or $30. And if you lose that money, then you lose it. And people use that for making small payments, like when you top up your car with fuel, or if you go to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee. But when you go into, say, like biometrics, that's where they have a higher form of security. So when you go into, say, a border checkpoint and you present your passport, they scan it, there's a chip in it, then they actually scan your biometric data for your fingerprint and your facial recognition sometimes, and then basically that verifies that you are the right person, and then they allow you into the country.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit about the cost around installing one of these chips. So where was it a couple of years ago? Where is it now? And where is it going to drop to? It seems like the cost is so low. It's becoming increasingly ubiquitous now.
Well, actually, it really depends on the application, and the cost itself is actually not normally the biggest reason why it's not being adopted. Most of the time, it's because people don't understand the technology. And especially in the US, people think of it more like Big Brother is watching me. So when it first came out, everybody didn't want it. When it was being implemented in Walmart and in Gillette, razor blades, people were thinking about, oh, now somebody knows where I bought this thing and it's tracking me and checking my payments and things like that. So people didn't like it. And then there were reasons that people felt that the technology was not mature enough because there was no standards in place, and people felt that it wasn't accurate enough. So there was actually more reasons why it was not being adopted. Cost has never been actually, most of the products that we're selling now to the big multinational companies, they cost probably 20 times, well, I shouldn't be saying this, but they cost 20 times more than what it would cost to a retailer or a supply chain company. But they don't care so much about this cost because the cost of the errors and problems that they face are in millions of dollars. So for example, the downtime cost of an oil and gas rig is close to $800,000 a day. So if they don't have the right tool at the right place at the right time, or if they're not maintained, then they practically have to fly the equipment in by helicopter to an offshore rig, for example. And that costs them much more than the cost of a tag or cost of a product.
Interesting. So it's really much more about sort of social adoption and education of businesses, and that's really seems to be the.
Yes, I think for the high what I call the low-hanging fruits, supply chain, retail, they're looking more at return of investment. So for that one, normally in a typical scenario would be around somewhere between half a year to 1 year, where you get the full return of investment. But for bigger industrial companies, the return on investment could be almost immediate. The moment you have something installed, so they actually need it yesterday. So if you have a solution to the problem today where your products are able to survive the environments and the conditions that are being used, whether it's high pressure, high temperature, or whether they're used in an environment where it's almost impossible to have traceability, then the cost of implementing is nothing to them.
So when we were discussing before, it seems like your company is taking a little bit of a different tack and focusing more on educating the industry through a stronger marketing approach, which is a little bit more unusual for a hardware company. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, sure. I mean, when we first started XERAFY, we are a pretty young company. We are about 2.5 years, but in the short 2.5 years, we have actually become a global brand in the industry that we are in. And we actually, one of the things that we did very well is that even though we are in technology, we really want to focus on how we can engage our customers and making the world smaller. So we actually use a lot of social media platforms. We use a lot of Twitter, Facebook. We use a lot of blogs. We use a lot of YouTube videos, for example, and of course the equivalent in China. And basically what we try to do is to engage our customers, have them actually be able to talk to someone, to interact, understand the challenges they are facing, be able to show successful implementations that we have done in one location to another part of the world, because a lot of things are actually pretty similar. Somebody who's doing defense in one country probably have similar requirements in another country, or somebody who's doing some kind of tool tracking applications in an aerospace company may actually be looking at something very similar, say, in an energy company in another part of the world. So by doing that, we actually bridge a lot of our audience and our system integrator partners, and then they be able to engage us and understand what we can actually help them with.
Great, excellent. Thank you very much, Dennis. Warm round of applause for Dennis Khoo, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you. I'll hand that to the next.